This framework is going to actually help you bridge the gap. So what you can also count on is that we are going to give you the tools every month. We're going to have the main topics like our conviction and our limiting belief and the vision and some of the things that we love from the book, but we're going to actually expand into new territory of conversation too, which means we will be talking about your health and wellness. We will be talking about your marriage. We will be talking about your finances. We will be talking about the subtle words that kill us, like boundaries and balance and all of those crazy things. But this will actually be framework that you can apply to every area of your life. The reason that we decided to launch this mastermind group is because 4 years ago, when this book went from my hands literally into the presence of God, and it was like, okay, this is bigger than me, and this is as far as I can take it, and God, you do the rest. We have seen truly thousands of lives changed. I mean, from reading the book to being in a small group to going to the Dare to Dream conference. I mean, we are actually seeing these words on paper infused, the Holy Spirit take it, infused, and watching lives transform. But how many of you know that when you get a taste of freedom, you want more freedom? Who's addicted to freedom? Oh my gosh, you guys, nobody needs a buzz any other way once you get a taste of freedom. I just need you to know that. You spoke and we listened. So the point of this mastermind group is we actually want to give you access to more freedom. Here's what I knew when I wrote the book. There was this thing called the gap. There's a gap, the gap between where I am and where I want to be. And I knew that we were going to need to give people the tools to bridge the gap. And it wasn't, you guys know, I've said this a million times, but I knew that it wasn't going to be just around skill set. I knew that it was going to have to be around mindset and heart set. So when I went to apply a skill set, it worked, right? Because it's never that the skill set doesn't work. It's always that our mindset or our heart set isn't working. And so when we started talking about this work, we knew that that was necessary, is to put into this work tools that are going to help people bridge the gap. But here's what we also understand. Once you read the book, or once you go to a conference, or once you do the thing, it's like the gym. You can't go once and expect to look great, right? It's like getting married. You can't, right? Justin can't tell Lori, I love you one time and then never again, right? No, you have to actually do it recent and frequent. Recent and frequent. It's just like renewing our minds. We have to renew our minds every day. We have to meditate on good things every single day. Why? Because practice makes permanent. Part of what you're going to be doing every single week is we are going to be practicing until permanent. You're going to get your reps in. Not that life isn't giving you the opportunity to do that, but this is going to be your checkpoint to ensure that you're doing the push-up the right way, right? That your mind is right, that your heart is right, that the path you're on is right. This is going to be the place that you get to do that. It's also the place that's going to ensure that you don't continue to go left when you want to go right. It's going to be the place that is going to help you go from the familiar hell into the unfamiliar heaven. It's going to be the place that we actually don't just remove the vice, but we fill it with something, right? We fill it with something divine. We fill it with something transformative. And ultimately, it's going to be the place that we just simply renew our minds, because I believe that the future is going to be built on the shoulders of the people with the greatest conviction. I don't even have to ask the question. Generally, I'll say to people, will that be you? Good news is I don't have to ask that question because you're here tonight. So I already know the answer to that question. It will be you. It will be you. The future will be built on your shoulders. And there's no pressure there, right? Because we don't expect you to do it the right way or the perfect way. We just know that you have been ordained, called by name, purpose, destined to do the works of heaven. He has called you, and you are bold enough, crazy enough, willing enough to say yes. And to me, the faces that I see on this call tonight are the people who simply said, I will say yes. Some of us, we are in a habit and pattern of habitually accommodating. Well, that's just the way that I am. Said nobody who was convicted. But I've just been struggling with some fear and anxiety for, the last decade. Said nobody who was convicted. Yeah, I've been struggling with this habit. And so like, I'm gonna kind of just deal with it or cope. Said nobody with conviction. So at some level, what you have to understand is that conviction will not allow you to accommodate for something that isn't serving you, or isn't biblically sound, or isn't true, or isn't who you are. Conviction will not allow you to accommodate. So easy as people to fall into the blame, shame, guilt. We blame ourselves, we shame ourselves, and we guilt ourselves. Conviction does not know that. And blame, shame, and guilt is generally built out of protective mechanisms or ego. But good news is, for any one of us who've struggled with blame, shame, and guilt, how many of you know that that can stop you dead in your tracks? Like, you know that you've dealt with it because you know what it feels like. It's debilitating. I am healed from shame that I can remember times in my living room having conversations with my husband, feeling so much shame that I could not even get a word out of my mouth. So I know how debilitating it can be. And when you learn how to start walking in stronger conviction, that's no longer invited. Walking in the place of conviction is that you're going to surrender your will, your way, and your time every day to God. Conviction is not about your will, your way, or your time. And in fact, a lot of times that's exactly where you're going to be tested. And it's going to be learning how not to be offended by God. Offended, that's a big word. Hurt, disappointed, no longer trusting him because he doesn't work it out the way you thought that he would. What the fertilizer? I don't actually say that. I say a different word, but Pastor Mark's here again, and so I have to say that one. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Actually, my little buddy said this in the back. Nixon, you guys were driving in the car the other day, and he's in the back, and all of a sudden he goes, "What the fertilizer?" And I, like, everything in me, I thought he was going to say it. And I, like, my heart, and I look back, and he's got this big smile on his face. And I was like, where did you hear that? Some kid movie. I can't even think about what the fertilizer. Because here's the reality. Disappointment or offense is truly one of the biggest things that's going to stop you from getting where you are to where you want to be. Because if that's my dream and that's my goal and that's what I'm convicted by, right? A lot of times what we start to do is we put our attention so much on that when something doesn't go as planned, even if it's not a conscious plan, a lot of times, you guys, this isn't even like a conscious expectation. This is not something that we sit and think about, but when something doesn't go the way that we think, or someone doesn't say what we think they're going to say, or the world doesn't do what we want it to do, or heck, God doesn't answer our prayers in the way and in the timing that he wants our prayers to be answered, instantly we could get triggered, grab onto an expectation, and totally forget that if I'm convicted, I have a standard and zero expectation, and I will not take offense or disappointment with me.